during those meditations when I used to see flashes, a person who looked like me, but at the same time was in terms of physical appearances was far different. At the same time, these were flashes that were just so powerful and were so inspirational that I just gave it a name. And I gave it a name of Superior Anas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wiser Together. This is your host, Parmeet Kumar, with my brother and the co host of this podcast, Anas Pasha. How
Hey
are you,
guys, how
bro?
are you? I'm great,
Good,
bro.
brother.
Hey
Good.
Parmeet, how are you?
Good, brother. Good. How's everything with you?
Everything is great. We have finally exited
The month
Ramadan,
of.
and yeah, Ramadan. It is, as everyone knows, we were in Ramadan, and it's just an amazing month of filled with lots of self-awareness, lots of sacrifices, and lots of self-inquiry that makes us a better person. And actually, we were talking about self-awareness in our last podcast with our guest, and I was actually wondering, like, what do you think about Ramadan and self-awareness?
Quite frankly, I all I know about Ramadan is that it's just a holy month. It helps you connect more with your faith, and uh, to me, obviously, it that naturally helps you be more self-aware as well. I'm not very religious, so I can't come at it from that point of view, but I definitely relate to it from the self-awareness aspect of it, right? So let's talk. Let me expand a bit more about self-awareness. This is something we discussed in our last episode as well, with Ashna. And speaking to her, she shared her insight as well, and it was through that I realized that people have a different perception of self-awareness, right? And I was kind of surprised and intrigued to see how people see it differently to me. So that's why I want to bring it to light. But before I do, I want to know what your perspective, what does self-awareness mean for you, very briefly, if it does mean anything, because this is something I've dived very deep into. But knowing someone else's perspective, for example yours, will just help me understand how people think of it, and then I can share my point of view.
Perfect. So actually, since the last time that we talked about this, and between you and Ashana, because you guys dove deep into it, and that naturally, basically created curiosity inside me to understand more about self-awareness. Because to answer your question quite simply, I did not have any notion of self-awareness. I did not have any idea. I think you mentioned it to me in one of our personal voice notes that self-awareness comes to me naturally, and I believe that is true, I guess, because again, like I said, I have no notion of self-awareness. However, as you know, that I've been trying to learn more about stoicism, and I read it from a stoic perspective and Epictetus. So basically, before I dive into this, because these philosophers' names are going to get mentioned a lot, so I just wanted to put it out there that Epictetus is one of the greatest, if not the best, philosophers of our entire civilization. And he lived from 55 to 135 AD, and he was living in present day Turkey. Anyway, so he was a slave who became a philosopher. So what he said that um, in terms of self-awareness is to know oneself fully. And basically what he says is that to have that knowledge, to have that wisdom, to have that awareness, to know one's strengths, weaknesses, and the depths of their potential. And these things are to be learned, these things are to be taught, because they unlock a door towards a life that is so fulfilling and is just authentic. So I to me to sum it up, I believe as of now, I am living sort of an authentic life. Have at least been trying to, and to me, since I'm doing these things naturally, without the knowledge that I had a 1 week before given by you guys, so to me, everything about self-awareness was just natural, and I owe it, I believe, to the talks that I do with myself every day while walking. And I guess this is where my knowledge starts and end. But I am truly looking forward to our conversation about this today, because in our person voice note as well, the things that you mentioned to me, I got to learn a lot, and yeah, I am truly intrigued to know your answers as well.
That's wonderful what you shared, and especially about the how you brought in Stoic philosophy in it, and the words you mentioned, they apply very accurately to this. But I feel like it's easier said than done, right? The words make sense, but you truly understand it and realize it once you experience it yourself, right? So let me start how I got into spirituality and how that led to just my understanding of self awareness. Everybody has it differently. I started with the book Power of Now, right? And that really cemented the idea of how we live in three dimensions, which is past, present, and future. Present is what is in front of us right now, but the past and the future aspect of it is our thoughts, right? Present is the only reality you have, but most, if not all, your thoughts can be categorized under these two categories, which is past or the future. If you just observe as well, all the thoughts you have, they're either about something that happened in the past, or maybe you were thinking this shouldn't have happened in this way, or maybe I could have done it differently, or maybe you're imagining the future. Oh, I'm going to be doing this tomorrow. If you're sort of, you can really observe doing this, right? Let's say, for example, tomorrow you're going to do an activity that is very, very, very uncomfortable. Let's say, for example, skydiving, right? You just naturally know the day before or a few days before that, all the thoughts you'll get in your mind will be about that situation that is going to come in
Absolutely.
the future, right? And what happens is, through these thoughts, they they take over our consciousness, right? So you in a day, you I've mentioned this before, you get about 70,000 thoughts per day, right?
True.
The present moment is absence of all thoughts. So in the present moment, if you're present, you won't have any thoughts. You're just aware of your surroundings, you're being the things you're
And that
looking
is
around.
so hard to do. That is.
It's hard to do, but you can really observe yourself doing this when you're involved in an activity. So let's say if I'm playing football, I don't have any thoughts about the past or the future. The only thoughts I have are related to the very next thing that I'm supposed to do.
In football.
Like, for example, any kind
Like
of
playing, yeah.
activity. Like
Okay.
sport is an
Yeah.
excellent way of practicing awareness, because it forces you to be in the present moment. You're just fully focused on the task at hand, and you're not dwelling in your thoughts.
Is it because that the task is so overwhelming, maybe?
It's because it requires you to be present. It's because it's more action oriented than thought oriented. You just need to do as opposed to think, right?
Yes.
Which is not the same for running, because if you're just running at a specific pace, you you kind of get used to that running part here, and then that running motion just becomes second nature to you in that moment, so the
Just
thoughts
like
start
walking,
coming in.
maybe.
Exactly, that's why you get a lot of thoughts while you're walking, right? It's
True.
automatic. But
Best
when you need
ideas
to,
come at that time.
yeah, exactly. And that's why people like yourself as well, you do a lot of those.
That's where my self-awareness has come from when I've had these talks. And like I said, Epictetus mentioned that just to understand the depths of my potential, it's that is where my depths become visible to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, like you mentioned, you are naturally good at it. But once you start becoming aware of it yourself, I think you'll unlock a new superpower. So what I'm trying to say is that, like I mentioned, football, that is one activity. That is something I can apply to myself, so I can obviously relate to it and share my experience. That's one activity. Or boxing, for example, when you're sparring, you are required to be focused and attentive, right? For some people it could be editing, for some people it could be watching a show, right? but there could be those moments, slippery moments in between those shows, or while you're editing, or even while you're playing football, that a thought occurs and you associate yourself to that thought. So I think I've made it clear in the sense that all the thoughts are either in the past or the future, right? And that is not your reality. Your reality is the present moment, right?
For me, then what about as you mentioned that once we are engaged in an action, I can understand how that works. I can understand the mechanism. You need to be aware, or otherwise, for example, if you're playing soccer, you lose the ball. And if you're, for example, lifting the weights, then if you're thinking about something as possibly you might hurt yourself or someone else. But while meditation, because this is such a big part of you, and this is such it's a routine thing for you, and as we've mentioned quite a lot of time in the show, that you've been to these retreats which where you've had these meditation not for just a moment, just for a few minutes, but for hours on time and consecutively. How were you able to block those thoughts, like those 70,000 thoughts that you've had while just sitting in a particular position?
Yeah. So this is what a lot of people get wrong. And I'm just going to come to meditation now, because meditation is just the practice of that thing that I just mentioned, which is being in the present moment. You're focusing on your breath. You're just focusing on breathing in and breathing out,
Ah,
and that is how you start, right?
I
So that
see.
breathing in and breathing out part is the present moment, right? But it's inevitable that you will be taken over by certain thoughts. Like I mentioned in episode 1, the three core principles of the mind is there to keep you occupied and elevate your ego and sort of make you think in a way that helps it keep you occupied in different ways, right? So the practice of meditation is just that, being in the present moment. And then you'll have thoughts which will start building on. You'll get lost for 30 seconds, a minute, then you realize, oh, so that chain of thoughts, that becomes your consciousness. You're not aware anymore until you come back, you reset, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. That's just the practice of making sure that you can be present, and it's the practice of keep coming back to the present moment, right? Now a lot of people get this wrong, that you have to block your thoughts. You can't block your thoughts. It's impossible, right? You are with your mind 24/7. Blocking your thoughts is not a possibility, no matter how much you try. This is a misconception, actually. You cannot block your thought. What you have to do is be an observer and not get attached to the thoughts, right? So if you start becoming an observer while you're in that present moment as well, the thoughts come and they go, and they're just your car, or you're walking and those cars are just passing by until you reach a thought that you attach yourself to it and you get consumed by it, and that thought starts developing. When that thought starts developing, that becomes your consciousness. Your consciousness becomes that thought. You're not conscious anymore, right? That is what overthinking is, basically. Does it
Yes.
make sense? So that chain keeps going on, and it just comes down to the person. If it's obviously different for everyone, but you might take a minute to come back from it. You might take a day. You might take a week. For some people, it's all their life, right? They're living in
Oh
a
yeah.
single thought, which is very extreme. But to give you an example, for example, some people who've had something bad happen to them and they want revenge. We've seen this in movies. That thought of taking a revenge becomes their consciousness. Now, because that is that, their thought starts expanding and develops on top of each other and finds ways as to how you can justify the origin of that thought, which was to take revenge. Right now, your mind will start developing on that and find different ways to justify that origin of the thought, right? Until you step out of it, right? Because people who, like, for example, this whoever this person is, XYZ, he or she wants to take revenge, that becomes their life. It started
True.
from a thought, but it becomes their life. Every action, every thought that comes after that is their
Is yeah,
consciousness.
is to achieve that objective. And
Yeah.
I just this reminded me of something truly beautiful that Stoics always say, is that we suffer more in the future than the present. And this is what this relates to what you said about overthinking. We're going to think of things, we're going to think of situations and scenarios that might not really happen. And because of that, instead of, like you said, having a consciousness about the present, focusing on the power of now, if I may say, we just suffer in the future. That's it. And it's instead of suffering right now, instead of thinking about what we have in front of us right now. So I think this is truly beautiful, and I think that puts things into perspective for me as well.
Yeah, so there's like the saying goes like the thought of pain is more painful than the pain itself. For
Touche.
example, let's be it skydiving, whatever that fear is for someone. For some people, skydiving is not a fear. For some people, it's water. For some people, it's heights. For some people, it's injections, whatever it may be, right? So, for that person, whatever that fear is, the thought of that fear or pain is more painful than the pain itself when it comes in the present
And it
moment.
might not be that painful. It might not be as
In actuality, it's not.
yeah, exactly, as I don't know, like as hurtful, negative, or as dreadful as they thought that it would be once they experience it, of course.
Yeah, and that's what I call the what if mind, right? So your mind is an expert at making those assumptions as to how a future will unfold or how certain things should have happened in the past. And it kind of possesses you in the present moment, right? Now, even though I might be sitting home comfortably in a couch, but if I'm supposed to get an injection tomorrow, and just thinking about that fear which is going to come tomorrow, the chemical reaction my body has in the present moment, it just tells the mind tells the body that you're in that situation right now, regardless of your outside, right?
Yes.
And again, this is a way for the mind to keep you occupied, right? So it all comes down to, I always suggest meditation, and I just want to explain this in a more simpler way as well, if it wasn't up until now, because
I
obviously
think it's
these
I think you're doing a tremendous job. It's like I said in our personal voice notes as well. These things just go at the top of my head, but the examples that you've given right now, I think they're putting things into perspective for me, especially.
yeah, I think it's just everybody can do this exercise as well in practice. Just when you sit and you're breathing in and breathing out, count count your breaths. Okay, breathe in, breathe out. 1, 2, 3. There will come a point when you have stopped counting and the thought has taken over and you start thinking, and then you'll come back to the counting part and then you remember, oh, I was supposed to be doing this, but the mind took over. The more you practice this, the more you practice the art of being present and coming back to the present moment. So this overthinking part, the mind taking over part, will shorten and shorten and shorten, and then your focus in the present moment will widen and widen, and you will start becoming more observant as you're doing breathing in, breathing out. A certain thought will be kind of asking for your attention and trying to grab it, but if you just observe and not, the thought starts building on once you attach yourself to it. And naturally, if you're not in the practice of this, every thought that you get, most of the thoughts that you get, you attach yourself to it until you realize and you come back. So maybe guys, try this exercise and just give us your feedback as well. This is my experience of it. Obviously, different people see it differently. This is how I see meditation and self-awareness. Self-awareness just is just being aware of those thoughts, because as we mentioned before, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, right? And then that can dictate your present moment as well, right? So if you can be aware of what thoughts your mind is giving you, it's always going to give you thoughts in both direction, positive and negative. So that awareness part of it allows you to cherry pick the thoughts you want to gain momentum on, and kind of neglect and refuse the thoughts that you don't want to sort of give your attention to or play with. You know what I mean?
I understand, and definitely because Um, I've been trying to, thanks to Pranmeet, I've been trying to get into meditation. I try to do them after my workouts, which he has already told me that that's not a good idea because your heartbeat is so elevated and you've been through such an adrenaline rush that it just makes it so much more difficult. And that is true because once your body is going through a workout and then you're going from 100 to a zero in a matter of few minutes, it gets difficult. I have heard Parmeet mention his exercises, and I did a variation of this. So tell me if this is correct or not, or
Yeah.
if this is the right way. I'll try out the numbers, the counting method.
Yeah.
For me, what I did was that I was controlling the rhythm of my breathing, basically. So since my heartbeat is elevated, what I do is just to stay in that zone and just to have like a conscious effect on my breathing. I was breathing in deeply, like I would like the first five or the first four breaths out of 10 would be very deep breaths, and then they would become shorter, and this would be like a cycle. So that way, it's like, and then like I'm actively turning the cycle so that, but then by the way, even in this I used to get lost as well. So I don't know if this is the right way or not, but what do you think about this one?
See, at the end of the day, all of these practices, there is heaps of way you can practice meditation. Do it through different breathing techniques. There's one called the you breathe in from your left nostril and then hold your
Okay.
breath and breathe out from your right, and then breathe in from your right and then hold your breath and breathe out from your left. I mean, there's countless number of ways. Uh, you breathe in, hold your breath for a certain time, and then breathe out, or you do deep breaths. Or, all of them essentially try to do one thing, which is kind of uh, help you focus on the present moment, and then just practice that art of coming back to the present moment. Because the mind,
It does.
it's always gonna, like, no matter how much you do it. I've been doing it for a few years now, but it always just so happens that a certain thought takes over and I start developing on it, and then I just become aware and I come back to the present moment and I come back to my breath. So that breath is where you sort of reset and come back to the present moment, because it's happening in the
And then
present moment.
eventually you get used to it, that you reduce the time that you spend attaching to a thought.
You reduce the time, and then you start becoming a bit more observant as well. As the mind throws a thought at you, you just observe it, that the
You
mind
know,
is trying to play
like
this
what's
trick.
up. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what's up. Yeah,
And then
actually,
slowly
I'm
you
so
can
sorry, go ahead.
start
Yeah.
so slowly you can start questioning as well. You're getting a certain thought, you don't attach yourself to it, you just become observant. Once you start observing it, that thought won't remain. It'll pass by and another will come, and it's just like in
Yes.
highway. And eventually, like, the more you practice this, then you can start questioning the origin of that thought as well. Where is this thought coming from? Right? Where does this originate from? Why am I getting this? So
Yeah, because out of all the thoughts that you can think of, you're getting a particular thought, and then you're attaching yourself to it. And this is what I do. Yeah, sometimes I just note down that why I'm thinking about a thing too much, or why is it its frequency has increased, or why is it occurring so much. Then
yeah,
then if I need to address it, I address it.
yeah, it's and it happens so naturally, because it's just something you can never be fully aware. You can't be aware of all your thoughts. You will get lost, you will get taken over by the mind. It's just that how soon can you come back to the present moment and just practice more and more of that. That's why it's just, this is so beautiful, because it's a lifelong practice. It's not something that you do for a month and then you're set. It's like working out is for the body, this is for the mind. It's a workout for the mind. And the more you try to understand your thoughts, the origin of it, why certain things happen, the more you can sort of create a path yourself consciously, give life and energy to certain thoughts which serve you, and kind of ignore and neglect certain thoughts which don't serve you. Because a lot of thoughts, they come from your, they're deep rooted, they come from your past, they have uh, some reference to it from the past. And because obviously in the past you weren't creating life consciously, uh, it's always just been stuck there, and then it comes up in different ways.
I
my
think
thoughts
that's
usually my thoughts usually when I'm meditating is just about what I'm going to do today, and then I have to do this, then I have to do this, blah, how I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. So most is like this.
No, I think that's beautiful, and I think we already have the title of our Instagram short clip, "Workout for the Mind."
Work out for the mind.
Is that you mentioned like thoughts serving you, and I recently noticed your Instagram bio change. I think you've never kept one,
Yeah.
but I think you've kept one now, and it says "Here to serve." So, is it one of those thoughts that you cherry picked while meditating?
Here to serve.
Yeah.
Here to serve, it just means, so obviously through this process and doing more and more of self-awareness and meditation, I was sort of I'm able to question my thoughts and really uh, filter out what energy I really thrive on and what energy kind of sets me back and makes me question and doubt my beliefs, right? So, as I've mentioned before, here to serve comes from, it's to serve the energy that is within me. I want to, through this conscious effort, serve the energy within me and make it reach the highest level. And then that's the energy I want to share. And that I do in different ways. And it all boils down to challenging your mind and overcoming the limitations, now be it through running a marathon or a half marathon, or getting into boxing, getting hit in the face, reading books, taking cold showers, stuff like that. This is everything that makes me uncomfortable, and that is how I serve myself and expand and elevate my energy, which is then what I uh, release and emit in the surroundings as well, and help them, like through this conversation as well. If I'm sharing something with you, or if you're sharing something with me that helps me be a better version of myself, that is the surrounding and energy you're exchanging, and that is the surrounding you're creating for yourself. So
I think that
yes,
explains so well, because I thought that this was like how do I say, like the serve part was not for you, was for everyone else but you. But I'm surprised to know that it's actually it involves you as well, and collectively everyone. That is
it is I
yeah, that
it
is
it
beautiful.
it is for other people, but it comes down to, I'm a big believer of filling your own cup first, and this is something where we've talked about, and I'm going to come to it in a moment. But I'm a big believer of, if I can't be the best version of myself, if I can't fill my, because if I am the best version of myself, then that is what I can share with the world, as opposed to if I have some shortcomings, or if I have certain weaknesses, and if that is what I share and portray to the world, that is the energy they pick up on. And I always believe that energy flows and has a ripple effect. So if positive, it flows as well, and if it's negative, it flows as well. So it comes, obviously I want to serve others, but it comes down to serving myself first, so I can serve others, because otherwise I'm not doing anything,
Absolutely.
basically, right? And I
Touche,
feel
brother.
like, yeah, we've you have a very, I believe we talked about this, and you have a similar, like at the core of it, I feel like it's very same, but your version of it is sort of different, and I want to really talk about that. You talk a lot about this, and
Yes.
you quote superior on us again and again and again, and I feel like, let's talk about that. what,
I
what,
I
what do you mean by that?
I truly agree, and I love how both of us have our ideologies in place. I believe that is a step towards, that is the first, that's a prerequisite towards having our own better version, because at the end of the day, that is it is all about. And I've agreed with everything that you said, because superior Anas is also someone that holds those values. The background of it is actually it came because of meditations of because the first retreat that you went to in Nepal, when you came back, you shared with us everything that you had experienced over there, and because of you, I finally started it, and you showed me the basic pose, and you showed me the basic breathing technique, and this is what I started with, and these were after my workouts, and although my meditations were just 5 minutes long, not more than that, I could not sustain. However, during those meditations, when I used to be in a momentum. I used to see flashes of a person who looked like me, but at the same time, was, in terms of physical appearances, was like far different. um, I cannot say better or worse, but it was far different. But at the same time, these were flashes that were just so powerful and were so inspirational that I just gave it a name. And I gave it a name of Superior Anas. So this is something that I shared with you maybe, I think, a year and a half ago. And based on that, I just picked up that ideology. And recently, um, basically, every year when I start the year, even before I start the year, I keep a year theme. I made a YouTube video on it as well. And I believe, more than keeping a yearly or annual resolution, I believe in keeping a theme for the year. So this year's theme was chasing superior Anas. So the definition of a superior version of yourself, because this superior version can be a superior Parmeet as well, a superior X, a superior Y, or superior Z. The whole idea is, the definition is that is to chase, the chase to achieve a version of ourselves that is intellectually, financially, emotionally, spiritually, and physically better than our version of yesterday. This covers everything, I believe, in terms of what a person is consisting of. And the last part that I want to touch is the better version of yesterday. Now, this is just a past tense. This can literally mean a few seconds ago. I am a superior Anas. Before then I started this podcast, like I am a much superior version of that Anas that was 30 minutes ago, because
Always
of
evolving. Yeah.
uh, exactly, because of the knowledge that you've given me. This part of intellectuality, in terms of spirituality, that we covered right now, it has made me superior than I was just 30 minutes ago. So for you guys, it can be maybe a year, it can maybe a day, it can maybe a week. A lot of people we hear, they say that compare yourself from the person that you were yesterday. So all I have done is I have, and I'll get to why this is called superior, Anas. Is just is just adding a little bit of sauce to it. You know that I love spicy food, so I like to make my life a little spicy. So this is a part of that, but it helps me give a picture to an abstract idea, to a profound image. And the what I just want to I just want to make you concentrate on the word, the chase. The chase is something that we've always talked about on our personal voice notes as well. And this chase is just so brilliant. It is such a brilliant concept, because this chase will never end. You know, the plan is that I will never achieve superiorness. The fact is that the flash, the vision that I saw, I'll be lucky that I even get close, like 1% to it, because the energy that I felt, it is something that cannot be written down, cannot be described. It is something that is just felt, and it is an energy that makes me keep going in the night. It makes me keep going during hard times, during hardships, because I have someone that I look up to. I have a version of myself that has achieved everything that I want to achieve, and I know that it exists. Maybe not in this universe, maybe in another universe, and it's calling out to me and other versions of myself. But I do know that a superior version of Anas exists, and that the chase is on. Every year, there's going to be a chase. Maybe by the end of this year, I'll be able to achieve the most basic version of Superior Anas. And the next year theme is going to be chasing Superior Anas 1 or 2 and 3
That's
and
so
4 and
powerful.
5. Exactly. So what I've done is I've established some goals for chasing superior Anas that maybe we can talk about in another podcast, because otherwise it would take up the entire time. But right now, what I just wanted to do was touch base on the definition of what superior Anas is, what the superior ideology is. And I just want to add a little caveat to this. Please do not think of this, or do not take this. It is such a powerful ideology. It is such a powerful way of thinking that in the wrong hands and with the wrong mind, it can become a little bit of narcissistic, a little condescending, a little demeaning, and we might end up thinking that we're better than the other person. The whole idea is that we're not better than anyone else. We need to be like we need to have like a better version of ourselves.
From yesterday.
And
Yeah.
exactly, and this comes to your point, like having the whole idea is having our glass full. And then once we're able to achieve that, because the chase is never off, the chase is never on, or like you'll never be able to achieve it, never. There's no person, there's no athlete, there's no celebrity, there's not anyone in this world who will be able to achieve the superior version of ourselves. But the whole idea is that every day, every moment, we can make ourselves a little bit better. And once we do that, our glass is full. So it comes back to your ideology as well, where I am just trying to make myself better so I can serve myself and others as well.
Yeah, that is so powerful, honestly, because like you think of it as your purpose. It's your purpose to, and the image you've created in your mind, because it is your purpose to reach that person that you have created. I'll come back to how, and we'll dive deeper into that as well. But that just gives you power to, because you have someone you're looking up to, which is years ahead of you, right? Uh, and the chase part of it makes it even more interesting, because a lot of people, like when they have goals and purpose or whatnot that is set in time, they want to achieve something. Once they do achieve it, they feel lost, right? So I
True.
feel like your purpose should be ever evolving. It's not something that is set in time and one thing that you achieve. It's dynamic. It keeps on changing as you grow as well. And we just think of it, say it very differently, but we're trying to achieve the same thing. But I just
The
want
same
to,
thing.
yeah, but your version of it is so interesting, and I would just want to dive a bit deeper into it. When you say that you saw these flashes, first of all, while this was while you were meditating,
Yes.
so you mentioned you saw a visual image of yourself, but you also mentioned that you felt energy. So was it both, or
Okay, so I think this is a construct of the mind. I wanted to talk about this in the other aspect, but I'll just share this right now. So, as a person, I'm a very animated person. You know that as well. I get excited. I just so
yeah.
and this animation actually comes from animations. I am a big anime fan, and the world of anime, the people who relate, like my favorite anime is Naruto. Um, these are adult cartoons as well, guys, so please don't judge. Anyway,
It's
so
Japanese anime, right? People who know this
yeah,
know this. Yeah.
everyone has seen it. Everyone has seen it.
No, no,
At
it's a
least the
big thing. It's not
yeah.
very childish or cartoonish. It's yeah.
So in one of those animes, there is another anime called Dragon Ball, and the series called Dragon Ball Z, and the main character the is called Goku, and Goku is just. I urge you to see this as well. You will not be disappointed. He is just a phenomenal character who is just his entire like his molecules and everything is built of pureness. In that, basically and by the way, this is where my life policies are also derived from. One of these animes have helped me derive my life policies as well. And the first life policy that I have is that I'm a source of positive life force, and that I must always show my radiance and never my murkiness. That is my number one philosophy, number one policy. And that is I'll
It's
repeat. So it's
yeah, please.
I'm a source of positive life force,
Yeah.
and I must always show my radiance, and I must not show my murkiness. This first part of Life Force is basically all thanks to Dragon Ball Z and Goku. He is at a planet and he is fighting his toughest villain yet. The villain's name is Frieza, and this Frieza guy has just killed his best friend, like on a snap, because he's just so powerful. And all of these guys are trying to fight, and this Frieza is like a space alien warlord, and he has gone and destroyed every planet and killed people without even a thought. And once he kills his best friend, like Goku's best friend, right, Krillin, and there is something that just ignites inside of him, and he becomes a Super Saiyan. So you can just think of Super Saiyan as a Superman, okay? And once he becomes that, what he says, and now Frieza can't hit him, like he's overpowered by Goku, because Goku is now becomes a superior version of himself. And this is where everything is driving from. And this is why I want to give this context to basically answer the imagery and the energy that I'm talking about. Because
Yeah.
for the guys who will go up and watch on YouTube this fight, they can search Goku versus Frieza, and they will see that basically when he becomes that Super Saiyan, there's a just to show the viewers, there is this raw of aura of energy coming out of him, like yellowish pure energy coming out of his, and his hair turns blonde. And what he says to Frieza, and Frieza is like, like, what have you become, and why can't I hit you? And he's just awestruck, right? And Goku tells him that basically it's a long ass speech, but Goku tells him simply that he is an ally for good and a nightmare for people like him. And that is something that has stuck with me. So you see that imagery, those things from animes, and animes is all about the good guy coming on top after not just an episode of struggle, like 500 episodes of struggle. And they make the story so intriguing, so delicious, that you are just forced to watch those 500 episodes, and the delayed gratification is just so phenomenal. So that those words, like ally for good and nightmare for people like you, that has stuck with me. And like I said, that I am such an animated person, and I believe that, and this is something that I saw 10 years ago. So I believe even as an adult who's 27 years old now, that imagery stuck with me and my mind, because as you know, like you mentioned, through meditation, we have these thoughts coming in and this and that, so many things are going on. For me, probably my mind created a construct, because when your entire life is going through a plan, and you're doing things in a plan basis, and you're feeling good about your life, I guess this is what the next level looks like. I guess this is what, once you have control over your mind, I guess this is what the mind tries to show you. So this is where that imagery came. Now again, those were flashes. I might sound so childish, or so, like, I don't know, people might
No,
laugh at me, but that vision was probably something like myself, that my mind constructed as me, as looking like a Pakistani Anas Goku. So, and this is where that version came from. And again, like, I see it every time, I see it every time of the day, and it just is so powerful. Even right now when I'm talking about this gives me goosebumps. Even to this day, this is fuel for me. That's why these life policies are so. To answer your question simply, I'm so sorry about giving so much of context, but
no,
this is where the superior ideology comes from. This is where the first life policy is also coming from, and this is the imagery that I said, that aura that I explained it to you. This is the aura that I was talking about. This is the aura that superior Anas brings, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what I'm trying to chase, being an ally for good.
see, when I say like you're naturally aware, let me come to that. Like, you, even though you mentioned you saw this 10 years ago, it's so think about these things. It's not about what you see or what you hear, it's about how they make you feel. That is the feeling. The feeling is what you remember, and you remembered it for 10 years, and you developed on that feeling when you needed to, right? And once you saw that flash as well, you felt that energy. I'm sure most people at some point in their life, they do have that, that push of energy, right? There's
Yes.
just some days that we feel so powerful, right? And it feels like nobody else can kind of penetrate through this energy that we have. We're in control. Nobody else has the power to change how I feel or how I am and just be that powerful version of myself. So once you did feel that, you developed on it, you worked on it, you thought more on it, you gave it momentum, which allowed for you to create this flow of energy that you kind of keep coming back to. This is naturally what I was talking about. Self-awareness is about recognizing those energies and giving it momentum, as opposed to uh, letting just life flow in its own way, and you have good days and bad days and good energy and bad energy. You can actually work towards identifying
Yes,
those,
sir.
be observant, and then filtering it out. So that's how I say you're like naturally aware, because you naturally lean more towards those energies and you give it momentum, and that is the reason why you are where you are, the person you are. And the things that you mentioned, I can't remember exactly, but force for good and being radiant and all of that, it shows, man. It genuinely shows
No,
in
and
everything you
thanks
do.
to you now, I think I will be, because again, like I said, I was just I did not like, these were natural, like you identified, and you also identified that, because to me these words did not exist before. I had no idea, but now thanks to you, I think I'll be able to better harness it. I think I need to, because it's just important to recognize other things as well, because I feel like I might be not fully self-aware. And like I said, like the stoic as Epictetus said, that we must be self-aware to recognize our strengths and weaknesses. There's so many strengths and weaknesses about even myself that I don't know. But I think, based on the discussion that we've had today, I think I'll be able to better harness these things.
See, that's the chase, and it never ends. When I also say that I'm trying to be the best version of myself, that comes from improving my self awareness more and more and more. And that comes from meditating and doing those things more. So there's meditation, which helps me be more self aware, which helps me be more purposeful and do things without overthinking them and without having those doubts, which allows me to overcome certain limitations. These are things that I'm doing now, and for yourself as well. I would have never even imagined this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. For example, even podcasting, right? I would just my mind would go in like 100 different directions, thinking like, what would people think? How do I look? Blah blah blah. This is how it used to work. Now as well, I have those thoughts. The only difference is I'm observant. I don't attach myself to those thoughts. Before, the attachment was a natural process, but now I still have those thoughts. It's not like those thoughts have gone anywhere. But I've
And
just
you know what? I think because of this, because we have a lot of mutual friends, right? And all of our mutual friends, because they've seen me do these things. I've had a YouTube channel. I've been a little public of doing this and that here and there. But you've had like a very private life that you like that you've not shared with people as well. And for you to come out in the most spectacular channel, which is podcasting, because over here we're all naked, right? And our
yeah.
mutual friends say the same thing. Like they never expected for me to do this, not only do this, but to do this so naturally. So they're like, how was he able to? And I believe that this thing is owed to this the self awareness journey and the practices that you did. Because you see, like
It
a
is.
lot of people, like in the start, would not even start because of these thoughts. These thoughts would hold them down. But since you were so self-aware, you were able to detach the thoughts that did not have any meaning and the thoughts that had meaning and purpose and that would move the needle. We're here.
Yeah, honestly, like people didn't think of it like this because I never did either for the longest time. And that's just how life is. And I want to be as transparent as I can be. I was living off of people's expectations of me, how they look at me. And obviously, these people themselves, nobody's perfect, not me, not you, not anyone else. And obviously, the society we live in, uh, you know that crab analogy where if
I
one
don't.
crab and
Tell
the
me.
bucket, so
Crab in the bucket. Okay.
there's a bucket full of crabs, and if one crab realizes that there's a world outside of this bucket and it tries to get out of the bucket, the or whenever that whenever
I
I don't know if
see.
it's fishermen or whatever, they catch crabs and put them in a bucket. When they try to take out one crab, the other one attaches to that, and the other one attaches to
Uh-huh.
that, and it's just kind of like this, right? The society we grew up in. I feel like whenever you try to do something that is not ordinary, not the norm, and you start try and do something which is outside of that specific norm that we've set for things, you get a lot of backlash. You get a lot of you're
Oh, you
questioned a
have no
lot,
idea. You have no
right?
idea.
So that thing always like used to hold me back. What will people think, right? And it was just so it was very subconscious. I wasn't aware of this. It was very subconscious. Like, what will this person think? What will this person think? X, Y, Z. And that really limited me from doing the things I wanted to do until I was able to detach myself from those thoughts and just be observant and not be attached to it. Right. So it's a process. It's still a process. And
Dude, I think you should give yourself a pat on the back for not subjecting to those thoughts because we wouldn't be here. And I mean, I just want to say one thing out there. All my life, I've done these things. Like I've done so many things during my school, high school, college. I've used to have a band, a music band.
yeah. See,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, I
not
was.
like that. That's what I'm saying. That's how we're a bit
Of
different.
course,
Yeah.
I've been at the front line of these things, right? And the front line is very simple. And we used to do this recording. I was a rapper, right? And look, I mean, nobody said that we were a perfect band or anything like that. But what we used to do was have fun and create something, and do something out of our own
Out of the blue,
self.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't even get to how much things that were said to me. And I am just so happy I never listened to those things because, like you said, Those were the crabs in my life, and those were the crabs who were trying to, because I was the one trying to get out of the bucket, and the crabs were clinging on, and
Yeah.
I think I was able to shake them off and still have been successfully. So
Yeah.
the point is, guys, the point is just be strong. I believe that the things that Parmeet has said, um, and I believe, let's take a look at this way, for a person like me and a person like Parmeet. And I think we can put ourselves into two buckets, right? There will be a person who's self-aware, and there is a person who will require things to be self-aware. And
Practices.
it's a
Yeah.
process. Yeah, it's a process. It's a journey, and both of them are just going at the same pace, right? So practice these things, understand these things, because once you are practicing, it might sound a little abstract to you, it might sound a little difficult to you, and you might just give up. But I'm sure, because we are two grown adults now who have been through these journeys, who have done these things, who have done things that we're proud of and are doing right now, and that was only possible because we were self-aware and we practiced these things. And had we not been, then we would have stayed with the crabs in the bucket, and we would have been lunch for some other people, and we would have never existed. There's so much
Yeah.
that I can go on. The torture
Yeah.
that those poor crabs go through, they're boiled
Yeah.
alive, or I don't know, but their hands are cut and everything. So guys, don't be that. Just live out, be in the ocean, live your life. um yeah,
Honestly,
just
like
just do
when
that.
you start creating so freely, and like we mentioned, how Ashna is so unapologetically herself. Like if you just go on her Insta as well, the kind of stuff she does, like her
Absolutely.
level of confidence, and she's, you know what I mean, like the kind of
I
stuff
saw,
she,
yeah, I see,
and
I see,
it
yeah.
it inspires me. It's so
It is
funny, and
contagious, it is
it's
contagious.
contagious because you kind of see through how real and confident, and she's just herself, right?
Yes,
And
she's a
I,
crab who got away.
yeah, exactly. And
I
I
think
think,
we're going to use this crab analogy a lot. I think it's
yeah,
perfect.
it'll come up a lot, but I just want to conclude with one simple thing, and you can be observant of it. Your biggest limitation is not that person, not what they say or whatever. It's the thought that you have. And that thought is sort of like, you start thinking, oh, this person is going to say this thing and this will create have this kind of reaction, so oh, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. It's that attachment to that thought that limits you from doing a certain thing. So just try practicing being more aware and present, and just be observant when the mind goes into the past or the future with your thoughts. I always say, like, presence is absence of thoughts, and that is what your reality is. Your mind will try to create an alternative reality which is not true, and that will try to limit you. And most people try to live in that alternative reality, not the reality they have in front of them. So it's not this is these are things you can understand through this and really experience when you practice them, because you that's when you truly know what we're trying to say here.
Yes,
So
sir.
I think that's,
I think that's a beautiful conclusion.
yeah. So with that, uh, again, truly, truly grateful for everyone who've joined us, who are adding fuel to this energy that we're trying to create. And we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening, and we appreciate you engaging with us. As always, please support us in whatever way you can. And thank you for listening till the end of it. We will see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Ciao, guys. Take care.